Not for the first time. I'm thinking about the future of visual proof. Deepfake technology is becoming more and more effective. We know that there are defenses, and like many areas in technology, this progresses as a kind of arms race. But when you get to the point where a single digital image can be used to fabricate an entire video of you performing some action, and that this can be done cheaply, quickly, with a minimum of resources, and of course distributed easily, even the best defenses seem inadequate. You'd need a pervasive anti-deepfake technology that could somehow automatically detect in any distributed medium the authenticity of this digital artifact. It's not sufficient to have a tool that, when applied to a digital medium, can detect whether it's real or fake, but to be able to verifiably prove this in real time, on the fly, in any environment, in such a way that the person consuming the media would never have the moment to think, yes, this is true. Because once the person thinks, yes, this is true, the damage is done. You can come back later and say, no, this is false, but the mark is left in the mind of the viewer. This is much the same as a tactic that print media have been using to print some news article that's really on the edge of fact. Twist it a little bit, adjust it a little bit, report on it with a slant that is in your favor, and then, when you're called out on it, simply print a retraction of key points in the article. But of course you can write paragraphs upon paragraphs on certain key points, and these form possibly a feature article, whereas a two-sentence retraction in the next day's paper is not going to have the same impact on the readership. It's comparable in the scenario of the deepfake. If you've seen a deepfake of some important figure, or just someone you know, doing something that incriminates them in some way, or makes them seem guilty in your eyes of some act, large or small, that you deem inappropriate, no follow-up retraction can effectively undo the imprint that's been left in your mind. And this is especially true at viral scale. Some months ago, Samsung came out with a deepfake AI along the lines of what we've been discussing. Others have followed suit. One image, and suddenly you can be made to do just about anything, and easily. And they have not released the algorithms or code behind this, ostensibly and understandably, because they don't want it to be abused. But how long can something like this really stay behind closed doors? When we think of most of the technologies that are kept secret, most of them either were governmentally controlled from the onset, or they require such immense infrastructure that it would hardly even matter if the average person got a hold of a secret. For instance, if you or I somehow stumbled onto the information of how to develop a nuclear warhead, it wouldn't do us much good, because developing something like that, turning it into a reality, requires a huge amount of resources and major development infrastructure. It's not something you're going to be able to do very well in your backyard, I hope. Anything that involves manufacturing, anything that involves meticulous engineering at an industrial scale, the information is still kept secret if possible, but it becomes implausible or impossible for the average person to make use of, and so it's less of a concern. But something like a deepfake, which anyone with access to any kind of computer, including a phone, would easily be able to reconstruct. And all you need is that code, that program, and suddenly it becomes almost impossible to crack down on this. Anyone, anywhere, can release these kind of deepfakes. We're already almost there. We have apps that allow you to put yourself in different scenarios fairly convincingly, replace your image into a blockbuster film. Laws and regulations are made to limit how these are used, but the field is changing and progressing rapidly. What happens when technological defense fails? Some advance the notion that it's up to those who distribute the media to do the fact-checking, to apply the anti-deepfakes, to ensure that the visual media that they distribute are legitimate. For the most part, this would be applicable to news media, but you could see it just as well applying to a content distributor like YouTube, where if a video is uploaded purporting to be one thing, but is fabricated, it should be marked as fiction or fabrication, That YouTube might be held accountable, for instance, to run some algorithm on any video purporting to be of a person to ensure that it's legitimate. Is this plausible? Some years down the road, maybe. But there are so many channels of distribution, so many ways to implement a deepfake. Can we rely on each channel of distribution to do a good job in vetting their sources? What happens when one major news agency slips up, even unintentionally, and a major news break occurs about something that has never happened? The ramifications are huge. You'd hope that an intelligent, educated individual would be aware that the information that comes to them through some visual media is not necessarily reliable in today's day and age. And we've discussed this before, the idea of taking the burden at least partially on yourself to verify that the thing that you're seeing is what you think you're seeing, that it's legitimate, that it's real before you come to a conclusion based on it. But there's no denying that this is a significant burden. For this to work, the majority of people in a society have to be educated enough on this topic and educated enough in their manner of thinking, not to jump to conclusions and to take the moment to try to confirm what they saw, or at the very least, to abstain from judgment since they don't know for sure if what they saw is legitimate. So against a threat like this, we can imagine these three different defenses: the more classical defense of technological response to a technological problem. We can imagine the distribution sources vetting the sources that they use, and individuals taking it on themselves to pay attention to what they're being shown. Maybe, just maybe, if all of these approaches are taken together, we can reverse the impending impact of this kind of technology. It is a fascinating, impressive technology, and I'm sure there are many uses that are laudable. But I think we all can recognize that it can also be put to malicious use, perhaps as more appealing to be put to this kind of malicious use. And as it gets easier and easier, we have to be more and more careful and more cognizant of the decisions we make that are based on the evidence that is given to us to accept. And the best thing we can do for now as individuals is to think and to keep an open mind about what is presented to us. The less we leap to conclusions, the less it's possible for us to go wrong in the first place.